we need to have a conversation about Xbox and their policy towards Game Pass, because if you don't know, just recently Microsoft announced a crazy price hike for their all of their Game Pass models in terms of about 40 to 50% price increase and little value gained for the consumer, or the players I should probably use as the term. And that caused so much of a backlash that it actually crashed the site for being able to unsubscribe from the model. And seeing that just kind of sparked an interest in me for wanting to talk about it for this video, because I, love this industry like you, and I'm sure so many, this industry is incredible. Gaming is a phenomenal place to escape from the mundanity of life, and seeing decisions in the industry that affect all of us, just they speak a lot to me. And I feel like it's a breaking point moment, because since the Xbox One and PS4 era, I feel like Microsoft in particular have been playing catch up the entire time. And initially they were trying to combat Sony's efforts with PlayStation, and they lost that battle fair and square. And then sort of into the late 10s and early 20s period, we saw them chart their own course with Game Pass, with the subscription model. And initially, I think the concept was good, and initially in its early stages, it was a consumer-friendly model, right? It was incredible in terms of the amount of value you could get for as little as about £10/dollars a month, particularly on the PC version, which I play on. And it started off well, but I think as the subscription model increased and we saw the price changes gradually over time, tick over, nothing to the extent of what we've just seen, the value started to diminish. And I think some of the more negative sides of the Game Pass model really started to come to light. And I think nothing personifies that more than what I would describe as choice paralysis. I've mentioned many times on this channel about the idea of struggling through a backlog, or struggling through the motivation to find the motivation to play the games you want to play, due to just an insane amount of releases for one, and also just gaming being so much more accessible than it's ever been before. And Game Pass kind of points towards that. It's not necessarily a bad thing in a lot of ways. You're almost spoilt for choice. But I can speak from personal experience. I've obviously subscribed to Game Pass, and I have Clair Obscur Expedition 33, which has been nominated by Game of the Year and is frontrunner for the Game of the Year in many ways, along with Doom the Dark Ages, which two games I've been so excited for to play and I've had installed since their release, and I have not launched them once, because it feels like such a slog and an effort to go and play a new game when there's so much available that's sort of pulling you in all sorts of different directions. And I'm sure that's a feeling a lot of people can relate to. I had the same experience with Oblivion remake/remaster. I installed all 120 gigabytes of that game, only to uninstall it the next day, because I realized I was never going to get around to playing it in the time, in the near future, because I was so spoiled for choice and struggled to really pick a game to actually commit to and play. And that might be indicative of a wider problem, but I don't think Game Pass helps the situation in that regard. And I think also on the subscription model, I think it almost speaks volumes to the industry moving away from this idea of connection and being connected to this industry in a literal grounded way. And what I mean by that is, as a consumer, as a player, as a lover of the industry and games and gaming, I grew up, like most of you probably, in a time where physical media was the front runner. It was the thing you did. You would go to your local game store. That's what we had in the UK Game, or the other stores like pre-owned stores like CX or something like that, or it might be GameStop if you're from America. And you would trade in old games with their discs to buy new ones. And I've mentioned before in videos, that was really such a valued opportunity, because it allowed me to try so many new experiences from smaller developers, different genres that I would probably never try without that opportunity. To experience all these incredible games, because I was able to trade in the CDs and the discs, and get new ones. And on the idea of connection, I think even just having that physical media, it feels so much more real. It feels so much more grounded, and you have that sense of pride and ownership. Buying a game used to be an occasion for me. It used to be something to be really excited for, when a new game would come out, and when my naive younger self would pre-order. I don't necessarily advocate for that now. But, I've talked about running home from school to play GTA 5, waiting for the box, which was delivered, package delivered at home after school. that's lost. And I think about the generation, below me now. I'm 23. I think about the younger generation. They won't have that experience of waiting for that game to get posted through the letterbox of the door, or as a package being delivered, or going into the supermarket or the game store on launch day for a midnight release to buy it. That experience is lost. And obviously that's come with the rise of digital media. But I think the Xbox Game Pass subscription service kind of is a natural extension of that, where I think as a player, we just feel a little bit more alienated, and that sense of identity and ownership with a game, and getting a personal experience out of that unique to you, it's gone. And it almost feels like you're, how do I describe it? I think of something like, it's similar to something like Netflix in its subscription model, where you spend ages looking for something to watch and never picking anything at all. I can, say that that's an exact same experience looking through the Xbox app for the next thing to install and play. I can't find a commitment to do so. And I think part of the reason that is not purchasing something. I think when you buy a game and you spend the money on it, it feels like a bit of a commitment, because it is. And you feel like you have to go and play it and get your money's worth out of that. Game Pass loses that in completely. And with this price rise, again, 50% in some countries I've seen, I think it's up to $30 a month for the ultimate tier, which includes online play and the streaming service. All the features you would need and want as an Xbox player. And now just completely, they've priced so many players out of it. And as I said, the site crashing kind of speaks volumes to the backlash, which, it's just another backward step for a company which was once regarded as, the real front runner. I think if you look back to the 360 PS3 era, in many ways, the 360 and, what Microsoft did there, particularly with Halo being there and Gears of War, their two flagships, they really own that console generation. And looking to now, I just struggle to see the justification behind doing such a thing. Obviously, it's a money side of things, but perhaps that points to the idea of Game Pass not doing as well financially as they would like. But it's a disappointing reality we live in, and I hope something can change. And I feel like we're coming, when I talked about this breaking point, we're coming to a full circle where ownership of a game, and obviously the Stop Killing Games movement, the idea of ownership and taking pride in that as a consumer, as a player, is going to become something much more prevalent over the next decade or so within this industry that we love and adore. I would love to hear your thoughts on Microsoft's recent decision, whether you like it, though I can struggle to see how that would be the case. Your thoughts on it, everything in between. Please let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, listening to me waffle, ramble. Plenty more awesome videos coming here soon, and I will see you on the next one. Have a good one, people.